Every 2 years, the European Alps are host to one of the world's toughest adventures, the Red Bull X-Alps. It's a race in which athletes hike and fly over 1,000 kilometers across the mountains to the Mediterranean. They will have to push themselves to the very limits of exhaustion. But if there's one goal motivating every athlete taking part, it's the thought of making Monaco. This year, as in previous years, the race starts in the historic city of Salzburg, Austria. But unlike previous years, it's taking place a month earlier than usual. The new date will bring mixed blessings, more daylight hours, but also more snow. At the city's famous Mozartplatz, 32 athletes from 20 countries prepare to start one of the world's toughest adventures. For the previous week, they've been based in the Alpine holiday resort of Wagrain-Kleinau, just 60 kilometers south of the city, for the race prologue. It's a one-day hike and fly race around turn points.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go!
Up for grabs are 3 additional night passes which an athlete can use to hike through the night during the main race. It's a valuable strategic tool to have in the back pocket. The winners also gain a head start on the second day. Due to adverse winds, the prologue is shortened to a race to the top of the Griesenkarek peak. It starts off steadily enough as athletes set off from the town centre, but soon steepens and slows. Heavy snowfall over winter and the mid-June start mean there's still a lot of snow on the hills. It's 1,150 vertical meters to the top, and athletes like New Zealand's Nick Neenans are pleased when it finally comes into view.
So it's starting to get near the top now.
After 55 minutes and 31 seconds, 3 athletes cross the finish line together. 5-time Swiss champion Kriegel Maurer, 2017 challenger Benoit Hueters from France, and hotly tipped rookie Maxime PINOT, also from France. It's an early indication of where the battle lines will be drawn in this epic race. A minute later, Austria's Paul Guschelbauer arrives in 4th place, followed by Tobias Groth-Rubatsche from Italy. Among the competitors is the Romanian running legend Toma Coconea, who has taken part in every edition of the race since 2003. This is his 9th time in the Red Bull X-Alps. Although the clock stops on the summit, athletes still have to return to the start. They take to the air for the ride down, using the opportunity to absorb Wagrain's beautiful alpine scenery. The resort is also the second turn point in the main race, so it's a good opportunity to check out conditions. With a guide now to how everyone shapes up, athletes return to Salzburg, ready for the start of the 9th edition of the race. Not everyone is as physically in shape as they'd like. Keeping injuries at bay is a big battle during the race. The one athlete naturally attracting a lot of media interest is the 5-time reigning champion from Switzerland, Kriegel Maurer.
Ja, für mich geht es jetzt hier los auf ein relativ langes, schwieriges Abenteuer. Das heißt, ich starte eher defensiv.
Now it starts for me, a long and difficult adventure. I'll start cautiously as I want to stay fit and healthy until the end. That's the most important for me. I know the others are all fully motivated, and I think they may start too fast. The ascent to the GASPARD is not the problem, but the route to Wagrain, especially when it rains and you have to hike on the roads, that's dangerous for my body and my legs. And if you push too much today and you have to hike again the next day and you cannot recover, then you may not reach Monaco, and I don't want that. A lot of eyes are also on local Austrian athletes. I'm pretty sure we can fly today, because there's not too much rain and wind, and I think we will get pretty close to Wagrain. The view of the top of turn point 1, the GASPARD, doesn't look great for flying, but these are Red Bull X-Alps athletes, all capable of flying in adverse conditions and hiking incredible distances when they can't. After passing the first turn point, athletes head south to Wagrain, then northwest to Aschau-Chiemsee in Germany. They then face a further 10 turn points scattered across the Alps, some on the ground, others in the air, before reaching Pay overlooking Monaco, which is where the clock stops. It's a demanding 1,138-kilometer route that would involve multiple crossings of the main chain of the Alps. It will be a fierce battle, but the race also forges a strong bond of camaraderie and friendship between athletes. They all wish each other a safe race before the adventure begins. As always, the Romanian running man, Toma Coconair, is first out of the gate, leading the charge through the historic streets of Salzburg. His running exploits and powers of endurance are legendary, although not everyone visiting the popular tourist city is aware of what the athletes are embarking on. Coconair maintains his lead through the city and into the woods, as fans have come to expect, but he can't hold the pace forever. The race is off to a fast and furious start, but experienced athletes like MAURER know that a long way lies ahead, and it's important to conserve energy as much as possible. This year, 2 girls are taking part, including DOMINIKA KASIECZKO from Poland. Toma Coconair is in his element as he reaches the top of the GASPARD. Hundreds of fans have gathered on the top to watch the action, but for those who can't be there in person, live tracking gives them a virtual view. Hotly tipped French athlete MAXIME PINOT, competing for the first time, is the first to reach the top of the GASPARD in a time of 1 hour, 5 minutes and 50 seconds. It's clear he's out to challenge MAURER in this race. As he signs the board, other athletes follow thick and fast, including Austrian hopefuls Paul Guschelbauer and Simon Oberauner. The rest of the athletes arrive in quick succession, including veteran adventurer Gavin McClurg and reigning champion MAURER. All eyes look to see who will be the first to launch. It's the Italian athlete Aaron Duragatti who leads the way, showing that it's flyable. He's the first to take off. The rest of the athletes watch closely, then follow him into the air, launching one after the other, heading towards turn point 2, Wagrain Kleinau. One athlete, however, bides his time, waiting and watching the others before taking off. 5-time champion Kriegel Maurer. But he too eventually launches, the view from his helmet camera capturing the electric atmosphere of the GASPARD. It's a magical sight as all 32 athletes fill the sky, attempting to gain as much height as possible before heading south. And it's not just a spectacle for those watching from the ground. It's now possible for fans to pick an athlete and enjoy a live virtual reality view. Although all athletes are able to launch, the overcast conditions are not good for cross-country flying, and it's not long before they start to come into land. It's here where rookie athletes start to appreciate why the Red Bull X-Alps isn't just a paragliding race. Hiking is just as important as the flying. Kriegel Maurer flies to the top of the field and tries to get in another glide.
Alle hinterher.
The others around him are quick to follow in his wake. Meanwhile, Paul Guschelbauer discovers that staying in the air for as long as possible can mean a lack of suitable landing sites, and he has a lucky escape after coming down in a river. But no harm is done, and he's quickly on the move again. All athletes now make their way on foot. Frenchman Benoit Hueters makes a fast start to catch up with Maurer. But he's not the only one who's fast on the ground. Thomas Coquenard is the first to reach turn point 2, Wagrain-Kleinau, 9 hours after setting off from the GASPARD. Benoit Hueters fights to make the turn point, but it's Coquenard who signs the board to a rapturous welcome from fans. Then, just minutes before the mandatory rest period kicks in, Maurer arrives.
Jetzt gehe ich mal was essen,
Now I want to eat, sleep,
schlafen und dann schaue ich
and then we
morgen
will
weiter.
see tomorrow. Having pulled a night pass, Benoit Hueters doesn't have to worry about stopping. Further back in the field, athletes try to cover as much distance on foot as possible, like Frenchman Gaspard Petiot.
At the end of the day, I'm a bit in the back, but my main goal is okay. I'm where I want it, and with the pack, with the group. So yes, we're pretty good.
Days begin early in the Red Bull X-Alps, and athletes do what they can to get ready and put some energy in the tank. Athletes can start hiking from 5 a.m. and flying from 9 a.m. But today it's a staggered start. Athletes depart according to their finish times in the prologue. For Gaspard Petiot, who arrived 10 minutes after the prologue winner, it means setting off at 5:10. The day dawns with the first dilemma for athletes: hike or fly. Despite the early hour and lack of thermals, Benoit Hueters chooses to get airborne. Others, on the other hand, are forced to make distance on the ground. Only 3 athletes succeeded in reaching Wagrain the previous day, but now that changes, and they arrive throughout the morning, including one of the 2 female competitors, Kinga Mstalitz from New Zealand. Athletes don't hang around for long, as vital time can be lost at turn points. A quick word with their supporters, a bite to eat, and a quick check of their position, and they're back on the trail. But there's no stress for Kriegel Maurer, enjoying a second breakfast. He is determined to be as relaxed as possible this race, but the calm is all part of his master strategy. Not far behind, Austrian Paul Guschelbauer is in the air. Amid spectacular scenery, veteran Red Bull X-Alps athlete Kaori Ogisawa hikes to a launch. At 59, he is the oldest competitor ever to do the race. From Wagrain, the route heads back across the mountains to Asch-au-Chiemsee, 90 kilometers to the northwest. Flying conditions pick up, and Kriegel-Maurer is ready to take full advantage, arriving at the German turnpoint just before 2 p.m. Just a minute behind him is French athlete Benoit Uthers. Then Paul Guschelbauer comes into land. I try to keep up with Kriegel, is all he can manage to say. The lead athletes are now able to take full advantage of conditions. Over 4 hours, a total of 18 athletes arrive at the turnpoint, including Germany's Manuel Nubel, Belgium's Tom de Dorledo, and Thomas Coquenard, who takes time to enjoy that local Bavarian speciality, a Weisswurst. No sooner have the leaders landed than they are hiking to a takeoff, from where they will attempt to fly south and cross the main chain of the Alps to reach the Italian turnpoint of Kronplatz. After a long day, rookie athlete Kinga Mastalets arrives at Asch-au-Chiemsee just 3 minutes before athletes have to stop flying.
I also learn a lot. It's just 2 days, but I already learned so much on the way. Amazing. Everything is so intense. Every day is at least like a 7 days.
With an hour and a half of hiking time left, athletes must waste no time to cover as much distance as possible on foot, while those still in the air have to find somewhere to land. So far, it's all looking good for race leader Kriegel-Maurer, whose meticulous planning is well known. Tomorrow it's about reaching Kronplatz, crossing the Alps. Therefore I need to climb high. We have to start early. The weather should play ball, and I hope to be over them around lunchtime when the thermals begin and I can fly. It's now the second night on this adventure, and a familiar routine kicks in for athletes and their support team. Eat, check tactics, plan for the day ahead, and sleep. Paul Guschelbauer starts the day with a plan to get up and get flying.
Gut Flug.
He's not the only one. Maxime PINOT and Kriegel-Maurer find themselves at the same launch. PINOT is first to take off, followed closely by Maurer. Flying wingtip to wingtip, they cross the spectacular Zillertaler Alps. But who will make it to Kronplatz first, home to the legendary mountaineer Reinhold Messner's Mountain Museum? It's soon to host another legend, Kriegel the Eagle Maurer. The 5-time champion has shaken off PINOT and is the first to reach the turnpoint, arriving ahead of schedule at 11:40 a.m.
So many people here. Thank you very much. Hello.
He is promptly awarded the Saliva Trophy for being the first athlete to reach the turnpoint.
Ja, es ist noch nicht ganz halbe Strecke, aber die Saliva Trophy ist trotzdem etwas Spezielles.
It's almost halfway on the route, but the Saliva Trophy is special to me to win it again. But it was quite tight, and Maxime will land shortly. In fact, there's no time to lose, and Maurer makes his escape, just minutes before a clearly frustrated PINOT arrives.
Not so happy with my flight.
The Frenchman is nonetheless having a storming race, proving he is clearly the one to watch, both on the ground and in the air. But the only question that matters is, can he catch MAURER? The route now crosses the Alps for a second time, to the Austrian resort of Lermus, in the Tiroler Zugspitze arena. With Innsbruck airspace in the way, it's one of the trickiest sections to cross. Meanwhile, the chaser group start arriving at Kronplatz. Paul Guschelbauer and Frenchman Antoine Girard are next to land. They discuss the best route to Lermus. There are many hobby pilots around. The better tactic might be to watch them instead of launching and then not finding any thermals. But waiting is not an option, and they both take off next to the uniquely designed Messner Mountain Museum. Tom de Dorlado manages to land almost next to the signboard. The Belgian athlete, competing for the 7th time, is enjoying his best race to date. Athlete after athlete now leaves Kronplatz, desperate to keep the leaders within sight. They are poised to pounce if anyone should make a mistake. But if there's one thing MAURER rarely does, it's make a mistake. Unfortunately for him, that's exactly what happens, and he's forced to land before making Lermus. I didn't make enough height at the beginning. I thought I would make it to Lermus, but I didn't. He now has to hike back up, launch again, which could cost him valuable time, even his lead. It didn't look possible, but now it looks like Maxime PINOT will be able to catch up with MAURER. Somehow MAURER is able to recover sufficiently to maintain his lead, landing first at the turn point. But it's now reduced to 1.5 minutes. It's neck and neck at the front. Anything could still happen, especially if the weather gods make flying impossible. And that's just what they're about to do. PINOT comes into land. He's doing everything he can to stay in this race. But within minutes, MAURER has stashed his wing and is hiking towards the next takeoff. In the air, the Italian flying maestro Aaron Duragatti has made a dramatic recovery after languishing at the back of the pack. He is now next in line to make the Lermus turnpoint. Calm and collected as ever, Kriegel MAURER prepares to launch. But something's different. This year he's got company in the form of the fighting Frenchman Maxime PINOT. He's ready to launch too, and determined not to let the Swiss champion get away. Paul Guschelbauer is next to reach the Lermus turnpoint. He is now in 4th place.
Geil, jetzt am Schluss war eigentlich der schwierigste Teil. Na, eigentlich der schwierigste Teil waren die ganzen Lufträume.
The most difficult part was all the airspaces at Intal, and after it was extremely turbulent. But all in all, super.
Aber sonst war's super.
He checks his devices, signs the board, and once more heads back into the mountains. At the back of the field is the Lebanese athlete RODOLPHE.
The problem is we came here as an adventure, so at the end I took some bad decisions, especially the first day.
As the last place athlete at the beginning of day 4, he gets the call from race director Christoph Weber to say he is eliminated.
Hello, Christoph. Maybe next time, if I have the chance, I will be more prepared to fly in this Alp situation, and maybe do better planning and decision making.
It's already day 4 of this adventure, and Maxime PINOT is doing everything he can to keep up with MAURER. Both in the air and on the ground, It's a relentless pace that he needs to maintain. The next turn point is the Swiss mountain resort of Davos. It's used to hosting world leaders swooping in on their own aircraft. This time, it's about to host some slightly different leaders. The race leaders of the Red Bull X-Alps swooping in by paraglider. While at Lemous, athletes form alliances, helping each other plan the route ahead, and in some cases, agreeing to fly together. Others are already exhausted from the effort to reach this far and try to force some calories down to get the energy levels back up before the next stage to Davos. Flying conditions are good, and five-time champion MAURER looks set to reach Davos by lunchtime. If anyone can make the most of the weather, it's him. MAURER closes in on Davos ahead of schedule, and race director Christoph Weber reaches the turn point, only in the nick of time.
Und es gibt weltweit wohl im Moment keinen Piloten oder Athleten, der so schnell ist wie der MAURER. MAXIME PINOT ist ihm ja gerade auf den Fersen, was mich sehr freut.
There is no pilot worldwide who is as fast as MAURER. Maxime PINOT is on his heels. That makes me happy, and I hope he can stay with Kriegel, or even take the lead. But it's difficult to stay, or even catch Kriegel. With the luck of the leader, Kriegel reaches Davos in time to get back into the air for another big flight before the weather changes. That's how it is. If it's flyable, I fly. And that's why I now push to make some distance in the air to Titlis. After hiking only halfway up a hill, he manages to take off again. PINOT comes into land 35 minutes later and is also keen to get back up into the air before the weather turns. For others like Aaron Duragatti and Paul Guschelbauer, who arrived mid-afternoon, it may be too late for another long flight. The gods are clearly on MAURER's side. After an incredible flight, Kriegel the Eagle makes it all the way to turn point 7 Titlis, top landing on the 3,000-meter summit plateau. What can I say? Unbelievable. It's actually not possible, but here I am. Even more unbelievable, he waits for a storm to pass and then manages to launch again during a narrow break in the weather. Titlis is a key turning point in the race, and MAURER has just made his escape. As more storms roll in, the door closes behind him, making Titlis is now impossible today, and catching Kriegel is more remote than ever. Day 5 dawns, and athletes are beginning to feel the pain. For Aaron Duragatti, who's had knee trouble from the start, there is a simple solution to that. Fly as much as possible, hike as little as possible. Up front, MAURER looks unconquerable as he flies through his home turf. In the lead is where he's most comfortable, and he savours the moment, flying amid the dramatic scenery of Switzerland's mighty alpine peaks, pointing out the famous Eiger, the next turn point in the race. Further back, it's not a physical injury that has grounded Benoit Uthers, but a problem with his glider, and he takes the time to mend it before continuing. Fellow Frenchman Antoine Girard has a problem with his knee.
Oh, it don't work.
Not works?
No.
And Korea's Chi Kyung-ha seems to have picked up a blister. The race doctors are seriously concerned, but there's no chance of Ha pulling out.
Oh yeah.
This time also really hard. Yeah, really tough.
In the air, MAURER plans his next move. While on the ground, Maxime PINOT, once looking so threatening, is now suffering as he is forced to the hike to the top of Titlis, a brutal 2,000-meter ascent. He can't hide his frustration.
Yeah, in the one hand quite good, but in the other hand it was difficult yesterday. I was maybe 45 minutes behind Kriegel, and it made a big difference at the end, because when I was flying in the direction of Titis, then after Davos, I had a thunderstorm, and I had to make a big detour to top land and go up again. And the evening, another thunderstorm, and yeah, so I wasn't in the right timing yesterday.
But in one of the most dramatic launches of the race, Pinot prepares to take off in the middle of a snowstorm on a treacherous slope off the mountain. Despite the seemingly terrible conditions, the cloud has actually lifted, improving the visibility to allow Pinot to make his escape. It's not only in the high mountains where athletes battle against unfavorable conditions. DOMINIKA KASIECZKO from Poland tries to make some distance in the air. Every kilometre flown is a kilometre not hiked, but unfortunately, hers does not last long.
I just thought that it is stupid to walk all the time.
The race's other female athlete, Kinga Mastalats, is also having a tough time.
I mean, she's such a good pilot, and when her head is in the game, she's unstoppable. She's got good patience, and when she's up there 110%.
Maxime Pinot finally passes the famous Eiger on foot and more than 12 hours after MAURER. With the weather making flying impossible, he's hiking up to 5,000 meters a day. As a drastic measure to catch up with MAURER, he decides to pull a night pass, which allows him to hike through the night. But will it be enough? It's day 6 and the battle at the back just got serious. Both Colombia's Alex Villa and Poland's Dominika Kaziecko are fighting to avoid elimination. Villa looks set to avoid the chop this time. At least Kaziecko can make it to Kronplatz before her race ends.
Cheering up for the others. I really cheer up for Kinga. Go on, Kinga, fight, and save the girls' honor, because I did not. And yeah, I think that's it.
Up front, the route now takes the race leaders across some of the most epic terrain of the Alps towards Mont Blanc. Even Kriegel must be feeling the pressure. He hardly ever runs on the road. Conditions are difficult. Team Pinot searches for somewhere to take off. And MAURER manages it, if only just. Things look better from the air, but there are no thermals. Only gliding is possible. Pinot prepares to take off. By repeatedly hiking up and flying down, MAURER is able to cover the distance. Pinot can't wait any longer if he wants to fly down.
Since the beginning of the race, it's a bit hard for the mind, because each time we think that we are a bit late for everything. We arrive and it's not good to fly. Just 10 minutes before was okay. So
in these conditions, MAURER is forced to choose an unorthodox landing site. Fortunately, if anyone can pull off a safe landing in a roadside lay-by, it's him. Meanwhile, Titlis is where the action is for the rest of the pack. At least the weather is marginally better, but flying there is still impossible. Every athlete now has to make the grueling hike to the top. Austria's Paul Guschelbauer is next in line to tag the turn point. He doesn't hang around, keen to get off the mountain as quickly as possible. Then comes Aaron Duragati via a slightly different route. He prepares to launch as Paul Guschelbauer approaches the Eiger. Duragati takes off from Titlis in 4th place. 3 hours behind him is Benoit Hueters nursing a cut to the knee.
Since the start, it's a long day on the road, climb on the mountain. Today especially, I hike 3,700 meters since this morning. And yes, it's very hard, but I feel good and I can continue to Monaco.
Another Swiss athlete arrives at Titlis, joining the top ranks, 24-year-old Patrick von Kernel. While Hueters struggles to launch, the race's youngest competitor tries an alternative takeoff. Being the halfway mark, Titlis is a hugely symbolic turn point, and the emotion of reaching it is all too much for Gaspard Petiot.
Titlis. It's warm. It's perfect.
Chik Yong-ha still fights on with his blistered feet, but he's moving slowly. Day 7 dawns. Will it be flyable? Maxime PINOT thinks so and is on the way to a launch. Unusually, MAURER is on the ground. Is this a chance for PINOT to catch up? He's hoping so. Back at Titlis, veteran athlete Tom de Dorlado is the 9th athlete to come through.
To be honest, I feel stronger than ever. Yeah, I really feel great. I didn't sleep much all those nights, but I feel very strong and really motivated to keep pushing. I can see a possibility to get to Monaco in quite a good position. So.
A further 17 athletes will eventually tag the turn point, among them race legend Thomas Coquenard. He may no longer be among the lead athletes, but his fighting spirit has not dampened one bit.
Yeah, today it's very hard today. That is very nice. Hike and fly. Super.
The region around Mont Blanc offers some of the most dramatic terrain of the race, but it can be brutal to negotiate. Hikes now feel more like alpine ascents. Few athletes are as experienced as Austria's Paul Guschelbauer, currently in 3rd place. This is his 5th time competing. He knows himself and what he needs to do to make Monaco and the podium. Mostly, that boils down to eat, hike, fly, repeat. MAURER launches from turn point 10, Saint-Hilaire. On a good day, it's possible he could reach Monaco in a day, but despite the blue sky, stable conditions mean flying any kind of distance is impossible, and he struggles to get any lift. Every athlete relies on their supporter to keep them going, cooking food, making strategic decisions, but sometimes wrong calls are made. In a bitter blow for Team New Zealand too, Kinga Mastalets loses her battle with Chi Kyung-ha after taking a wrong turn and is eliminated as a last-placed athlete.
This race completely blew my mind.
Switzerland, home territory for the race's youngest athlete, Patrick von Kernel. He keeps a journal to share his emotions. He's had enough epic experiences to fill a book. Up front, Kriegel Maurer seems to have an unassailable lead, but it relies upon him making dozens of strategic decisions throughout the day, and every one needs to be the right one.
Aber man ist fokussiert auf die Strecke. Jetzt, wo gehe ich weiter? Was wird heute das Wetter bringen? Es ist super schön Wetter, es wird warm. Aber
you are focused on the route, where to go, how the weather will be. It seems to be nice, but thermals do not develop. So what's the best decision? Should I wait and try to fly later, or should I fly down and hike up again? And these decisions occur more times every day, making it difficult. It makes you tired in your head. This decision is to get into the air and fly towards Monaco. It's the same for every athlete. Paul Guschelbauer's supporters plot his next steps in the Audi e-tron. His plan is to get to Saint-Hilaire as fast as possible and then head towards Monteviso, turn point 11. Monaco is getting closer.
Nur umgucken.
It's not just the athletes who are in a hurry. Race director Christoph Weber is also on a mission to keep up.
Für die Supporter von den Athleten ist es natürlich, wenn es fliegt, so wie es heute fliegt oder wie es am Anfang geflogen ist, äußerst schwierig mitzuhalten, da die Athleten denen einfach davonfliegen und man selbst.
For the supporters of the athletes, it's difficult to stay with the pilots if it's a good flying like today or at the beginning of the race, because they are so fast in the air and it's hard to follow by car. It's the same for the organisation, also because the field of athletes is split so far. But experience of the past editions helps a lot. Tom de Dorlado is fighting to fulfill his dream of reaching Monaco. In 6 editions, he has never made the sea.
Happy with what I did. I'm in front of the pack. There's a group of wolves behind me, so I have to keep going. And but the good news is I'll be on time to take off before the time limit in Saint-Hilaire to be able to cross the valley. And I think I'll be able to close the door behind me because some of the guys won't make it before 9. So, and then I'll go to the other side on top, fly down again, and try to cover as much distance as possible. Now there's only 3 days left, and it's time to push.
Maurer prepares himself for the ordeal ahead. Every day feels like it's going to be a great flying day, but the stable conditions aren't shifting. This prevents thermals from developing. Pilots liken it to riding a bike on flat tires. Everything requires more effort. After Maurer, Pinot and Guschelbauer, Benoit Uthers is the 4th athlete to pass the Saint-Hilaire turn point. Guschelbauer is back on the ground, trying to cover the distance on foot until he can get back in the air. MAURER is on the outskirts of Nice. Now I have one short flight planned, and if something doesn't work, like the takeoff or landing, it can be dangerous to be caught up, but I will try my best. It's hard to think of a more dramatic launch site. It's more of a base jump than a traditional takeoff. But if it's good enough to get in the air, it's good enough for MAURER. Unfortunately, it's not a long flight. French athlete Maxime Pinot's Red Bull X-Alps has been a bruising experience, and he's suffered many cruel blows along the way. But the finish is in sight, and his second place looks secure, an amazing achievement for the first-time competitor. Just a few more hikes and flights, and he should make it. Once again, the Red Bull X-Alps proves no match for Kriegel MAURER, who reaches pay to claim his 6th consecutive victory. This is where the clock stops for him. He's done it in 9 days, 7 hours and 17 minutes. It's an unbelievable achievement.
Ich denke, fast wichtiger als der Sieg ist die Umstände, wie ich das gewinnen konnte.
More important than the win is how I could win. The analytics and development I did so that I can be here without any injury and pain. I'm particularly proud that I was able to work really well with my team and repeat the success of my previous performances.
Eine Bestätigung der Leistung von früher wiederholen konnte, das macht mich sehr stolz.
All that remains is the last flight down to the sea for the win to be official. As in previous years, athletes make the flight alongside their supporter. It's a welcome prize for Andy Schaublin, who shared and endured every step of Kriegel's journey. Kriegel makes the most of the glide. It's the most enjoyable flight of the whole race, and he savours every moment of the victory descent. For the 6th time, he has proved invincible.
Hey man!
23 hours after MAURER, Maxime Pinot makes pay to claim 2nd place.
I have no injury, so it's super nice. I just feel my legs are tired and I'm tired also, so at the end I was just, I can do some really low efforts, but now, like yesterday, pushing was super strong for the body, so it was difficult. But I'm tired, but I'm full in shape and no injuries. It's the most important.
Now it's Pinot's turn to fly down to Monaco with his supporter, Jeremy Lager. He doesn't quite make the float, but he has finally broken into a smile. The battle is now on for 3rd place between Paul Guschelbauer and Benoit Uters. But they decide to walk the final miles together, crossing the line in a spirit of comradeship.
Jetzt am Schluss war es super geil irgendwie da mit Benoit.
At the end, it was great to finish with Benoit. He knew the best way, and we said, why not make it together?
It's a big I can fly there, another big I can fly there today, and yes, it's I was fun to be here.
Many more athletes arrive overnight. Germany's Manuel Nubel, Austria's Simon Oberauner, Gaspard Petiot from France, Patrick von Kernel from Switzerland, and the Italian Aaron Duragatti. And finally, just before the race ends,
7 editions already, 6 editions without reaching Monaco. I had 2 accidents on the race, and today here I am. And the first time I took part in the race, I was 21 years old, and it seemed impossible for me to reach Monaco. You know, the guys were so fast, and so I trained and I prepared and I trained some more. And this year I was fighting in the top 10 all the time, and yeah, the position doesn't really matter for me. The most important was to finish here, to arrive in Monaco and to leave this behind, you know. So I'm super happy to be here.
There's only one final challenge left for all the athletes, and that's to celebrate their achievements. It's been an incredible edition. The race will return in 2021.
You never